What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to this episode of BRICkast Desktop Builds. Today we're doing another installation in our Battlebots series, and I am bringing you, if you haven't guessed, Rotator. Now, Rotator is a palindrome, meaning the word can be spelled the same way forwards and backwards. And the robot is actually designed with that same mindset. As you can see, it is identical on both sides, with a spinner on top and then an undercutter spinner on the bottom, and you flip it over and you have the exact same configuration. Replicating that sort of palindrome idea in Lego I thought was going to be pretty difficult because, there's a lot of tiles that you can attach to studs, but there's not a lot of tiles or pieces with studs that can go on the underside of things. So it was a challenge to bring this together. I ended up using a lot of brackets and sort of building it in 3 separate parts. And this circular piece was awesome for the weapon, which actually has enough ground clearance to be able to drive. It definitely took me a while to figure out how to make sure that when it's flipped on either side, each weapon has enough ground clearance that the robot can actually drive around. I went through quite a few prototypes where it looked a little bit different, but this is ultimately what I think ended up looking the best in the end, with the gold, with the wheels, able to flip over, and the spinning discs. But that's enough about the mock. Let's get you guys into the tutorial. I certainly am ready to get started building this with you. But first off, let's take a look at the pieces you're gonna need. So as we start on building Rotator, we're going to work on 2 identical sides. These pieces that we're going to be building here are just going to be the mount for the weapon, which will mount on opposite sides of the axle piece, which we'll build towards the end of this video. So we're just going to be building 2 identical parts. So first off, you're going to take this brick right here. It is just a 1x4 bracket piece with 4 studs on the side. Take it, set it down facing that way. Then you're going to grab this 2x1 brick with a Technic pinhole, and you're going to attach that right like that. Make sure you attach it on the top studs, not on the side studs that are hollowed out. We're going to use those for something later, and we're building in this horizontal direction. And you're going to take these little 1x1 plates. You're going to put 1 on each of these corners. That's just going to fill in some space for us right there. And then finally, you're going to take this little Technic pin. It's 1.5 pins long, perfect size for those disc weapons that we're going to have mounted on the end. And you're going to take this, make sure that the half part of the Technic piece is pointed the opposite direction from these studs on the side of our bracket brick. So stick that under right like that, and you can see you have that half stud or that half pin sticking out of the pinhole brick. Then on the other side you have the bracket. So we'll just set that one aside, and I will build the other one real quick. Just want to build it the same exact way. Take the bracket piece, the pinhole piece, and these 2 1x1s right here, and just mount those on like that. Should be pretty simple. Then go ahead and take Technic pin, slide it down right like that. So now we should have 2 identical side pieces. They're going to mount onto the side of the axle, and these are going to make up the frame of Rotator. So we're going to move on to adding that spicy gold color, nice little touch to Rotator, and we're going to bring the shape of that plow and the weapon onto the frame of our robot. So I'm just going to put each piece on each side of the frame that you can see right here in the picture. So first things first, we're going to start with these just 2x2 tile pieces. These are going to sort of cover up the other side of the weapon spinning mechanism. So you're going to take this against each one of your frame parts, and you're going to put it on these 2 open studs in the middle of your bracket piece. Just make sure that this lines up right, and it is going to overlap in this direction so that it covers the opposite end of our spinning Technic pin joint. Do that on the other side. Awesome. So now we're going to add that plow, the sort of angled part of Rotator. Go ahead and take one of these awesome gold sloped pieces, just a 1x1 slope. These things look really nice on the build. Had to order some of these from BRICK, but I was glad I did because it looks super nice. If you don't have this piece in metallic gold, I know it's kind of uncommon, you can use beige or tan. That actually works pretty well too. That's actually the original prototype I did of this was in beige, as you can see that right there. So you're going to take this, plop it right on there so we have a nice smooth slope. We'll do one on the other side as well. We're starting to see that Rotator plow come together. Then on the other side of our frame, and now we have these two identical frame pieces with slopes on either side. Now only to add the rest of the slope, which we're going to use this sort of triangular prism-shaped piece, I guess is what you could call it, in gold, and this is going to make the rest of Rotator's angle right there. I think it looks pretty nice, pretty accurate. It's a pretty hard shape to actually replicate in Lego, but I think these pieces worked out super well for it. If you can find another way to replicate that sort of sloped front end that Rotator has above its weapon with Lego, then be my guest, try to mount it on this frame however you'd like. There's definitely some options that you can do with this. So now we're going to work on the weapon, and this is where another new piece that Lego's come out with recently has helped out. This thing, this piece wasn't really around when I was a kid building Lego, but I've recently got some Lego sets and acquired some of these, and I found this when I was looking for Rotator's weapon. It was perfect. So it looks a little dull right now. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take one of these 1x1 tile pieces, and we're just going to place this on the end of Rotator's weapon. Actual Rotator has these sort of black teeth on the edge of its discs, and I wanted to replicate that. And as you can see, when you turn it over, you can see that biting tooth right there to smash other bots. So it actually has some blunt force in the weapon. Now we're going to attach this to one of our frame parts, probably this one, and you just are going to take this hole, which is perfect to fit a Technic pin and will fit perfectly on that half pin we have sticking out right here. So just go ahead and stick that right on there. If I can get it straight, there you go. And now we have spinning weapon for Rotator, and we can do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead, take that tile piece and attach it right there. And now we have both the spinning weapons for Rotator. So now we're going to build the centerpiece of Rotator, the axle part that we've been talking about. That's going to bring everything together. We're going to mount the wheels onto it. We're going to use these brackets here to mount the weapons and the frame in a way so that Rotator will be able to flip over and still be symmetrical. So first things first, we are using one of these pieces again for the wheels. It is just a 1x4 plate with the wheel axles on the side. So we're going to start with that. That's going to sort of be the base for our build, and then we're going to use these two brackets. Now these are going to be really important. I have this one in gray right now just so you can tell the difference a little bit. So we want to make sure that we take the bracket that is a down bracket. This bracket is facing down as opposed to this one, which is angled upwards. So we want to have the down bracket go on top of the axle, just like that. We want to make sure that we make that distinction here, because we're working with some funky dimensions, and it's just a tiny bit of clearance that we have for Rotator for those weapons to both spin. So if you don't get this right, your Rotator build isn't going to work out exactly correct. So the other bracket that's facing upwards, as I denoted, that one is going to go on the underneath side of the axle piece. So we sort of have this weird part with a bunch of studs all over it. Now we're going to fill in these gaps on the side with some of these 1x1 bricks. build calls for 8 of these. Put one on either end there. You can see that one's filled in. And then on the opposite side, we're going to fill in that area. And so now we're going to try to have that rotational symmetry with the axle, which it looks pretty good so far. And we're just going to take one more second to fill in a little space that we'll see come to fruition at the end with this 1x4 plate. It's going to attach on the bottom, kind of snug it and hold it all together right there. And then this 1x4 tile is going to go on the top, and that also keeps it nice and snug together and working just fine. So now we're going to take this, we're going to put the wheels on, and we're going to bring the entire build together. So now you can see we've got everything in frame, and we are just going to bring our rotator build together. Now, it's really important at this step of the build to recognize our different brackets, because that's going to have a lot to do with Rotator's weapon being able to clear the rest of its body and comfortably spin. So that's why I helped you color code these. We've got the gray bracket and we've got the black bracket. So the black one, remember, is our upwards facing bracket, and the gray bracket is our downward facing bracket. So as we go to attach the weapon, the important thing to consider as we pick up one of these weapons right here is that we want the weapon, the spinner that's facing up, we want to attach to the upward facing bracket. So face your upward spinner right here on this black bracket. Now, the spinner that's going to be facing down, we're going to attach to the downward facing bracket. So take your other spinner that's going to go upside down, stick it right there on that gray bracket. Let me just stick that on there. And now you can see we have an almost perfect ground clearance right here. If you look on this sort of horizontal plane, you can see that this weapon is almost completely flush with the rest of the build. And once we put the wheels on, that'll give it a little more space with the ground. And now we can see that it comfortably flips over. Let's go on to these smooth pieces. We're just going to take one of these 1x2 pieces with the grooves, and we're going to go ahead. This is sort of a ventilation system that you can see on Rotator that I wanted to replicate. So go ahead and take this, and you're going to place it right in the center of this hollow stud so that it is on the center axis, which will make it be perfectly flush with that smooth piece right there. You're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side, keeping up with that symmetrical theme we've had going through this whole episode. You see it flush with the underside of this 1x4 plate. Then we're going to do the same thing. Because Rotator only has that vent on one side, we're just going to use a regular tile piece for this part. So take this tile, attach it right there in the center. Should be easy because there's, open space underneath both of these tiles, as you can see right there. And we'll take that, throw it on the other side. Now we have that smoother body coming together. No more open studs on either side of Rotator, save for on the weapon, I guess, but that's all right. And then finally, to bring it all together, we're just going to take our 2 wheels so Rotator can actually roll. I picked these gray wheels. Rotator's wheels aren't actually this big compared to the rest of the bot, but I kind of had to go with these to give it bigger ground clearance, because obviously with Lego you're working with a lot thicker dimensions then, and a lot less variation in thickness than you are with other things. There's only 3 thicknesses of Lego bricks. So this one was what was perfect for the build. So we'll slap that tire on one side and the wheel on the other side, and voila, there it is. We have our Rotator build. Another one that comes together super nicely. So that is it for Rotator. I hope you guys enjoyed following along and building. I hope you learned something about Lego, or maybe you just enjoyed watching a Battlebot be created in the great medium that is Lego bricks. And as for this build, came together super well. We've got the bot with both weapons that function. It's able to drive around, and it's totally invertible. So it pretty much functions just like Rotator functions in the real BattleBox, and that's what I'm going for. And now, it can join the Lego Battle Box with the rest of the field that I have been slowly working on over the past few months. Now, if you guys love Battlebots or you love Lego, be sure to subscribe and be sure to hit that notification button because I've got some more bots on tap coming up. We've got a very famous horizontal spinner, we've got one of the favorite lifters in the tournament, and we've also got a vertical drum spinner coming up that I'm going to build for you guys. I literally just ordered the pieces off BRICK yesterday, so they'll be here soon, and there'll be lots more BattleBot videos to come. And thank you guys so much for building along. I have certainly enjoyed building with you. Until next time.